What if the creepiest things in From were never the monsters? What if the real witnesses have been sitting quietly in plain sight the entire time? Not Boyd. Not Victor. Not Jade. The dolls. Everyone treats them like harmless decorations. Broken toys. The creepy props placed around the town to make us uncomfortable. But what if that's exactly what the town wants us to think? Because the more I rewatched From, the more one terrifying pattern kept appearing. The dolls are almost never random. They appear before tragedy. They appear near people carrying hidden trauma. And sometimes, they seem to be looking directly toward the next victim. That's a strange coincidence. Until it happens again. And again. And again. But here's what changes everything. What if the dolls aren't decorations at all? What if they're messages? Not messages from the monsters. Not even from the boy in white. But from something much older than both. If that's true, then we've been watching the wrong clues since season 1. Because the town has been speaking this whole time. Just not with words. It has been speaking through the dolls. And once you notice that, you can't unsee it. Most people believe the biggest mystery in From is how people get trapped. Others think it's the creatures. Some believe the answer lies beneath the tunnels. But that's not the real mystery. The real mystery is this. How does the town communicate? Think about it. The town almost never explains itself directly. Instead, it uses symbols. The bottle tree. The music box. The crows. The children. The talismans. Nothing is ever straightforward. Everything becomes a language. So, why would the dolls be different? Look at what the show is actually telling us. Whenever something refuses to explain itself, it's usually because it's trying to be interpreted. Not ignored. This is the detail everyone missed. The dolls don't move around like horror movie toys. They don't suddenly attack anyone. They don't jump across rooms when nobody's looking. That's important, because From rarely uses cheap horror tricks. Instead, it creates psychological horror. It wants you to notice something, then question why it was there in the first place. The dolls follow that exact rule. They aren't scary because they move. They're scary because they never need to. Their placement does all the talking. Now think about Victor. Nobody understands the town better than Victor. He remembers things nobody else can. He saves objects other people throw away. He keeps drawings. He preserves memories. He never assumes something is meaningless. Why? Because Victor learned one brutal lesson as a child. Everything in this town means something. Even the smallest object. Especially the smallest object. That's why Victor pays attention to toys, pictures, old belongings, tiny details everyone else ignores. He isn't being sentimental. He's surviving. Because he knows the town hides its truth inside ordinary things. If Victor believes objects matter, why shouldn't we? Now, let's connect another piece. The monsters smile, but they almost never smile naturally. Their expressions feel frozen, artificial, almost like someone arranged them, like dolls. That similarity isn't accidental. Think about how both monsters and dolls share the same disturbing quality. Neither shows real emotion. They imitate it. A doll has painted eyes. A monster has a painted smile. Neither expression changes. Neither expression feels alive. It's a performance. That's fascinating because From constantly asks one question. What is real? And what is pretending to be real? The monsters pretend to be human. The town pretends to be safe. The voices pretend to help. Even memories can't always be trusted. So, why wouldn't dolls fit into that same pattern? Not because they're pretending to be alive, but because they're pretending to be meaningless. And this is where it gets darker. Maybe the dolls aren't copies of children. Maybe children are being compared to dolls for another reason. Dolls don't choose where they go. Someone places them. Someone positions them. Someone decides what they should see. Now imagine the town doing exactly that. Every doll becomes another set of eyes. Not living eyes. Watching eyes. There's another strange pattern hiding in plain sight. The show constantly places important objects where characters least expect them. A bracelet suddenly reappears. A lunchbox carries decades of memory. A music box becomes connected to impossible events. An old photograph changes how someone understands reality. Objects in From don't stay ordinary. They become evidence. So why do viewers still assume the dolls are only background decoration? That doesn't match the show's storytelling at all. Every season teaches us the same lesson. Ignore the small things, and you'll miss the truth. The writers reward careful viewers, not casual ones. That's why every strange object deserves suspicion, especially one that appears over and over. Now here's the part that completely changed my theory. What if the dolls aren't predicting deaths? What if they're recording choices? That sounds impossible until you remember how this town behaves. The town reacts to emotion. Fear changes people. Hope changes people. Despair changes people. The forest almost feels alive, as if it's observing every decision. So, maybe the dolls aren't warning anyone. Maybe they're keeping score. Maybe every time someone lies, breaks, gives up, or chooses violence, the town marks it. Not with words, with another silent witness. Another doll, standing exactly where it needs to be. Watching, waiting, saying nothing, because it doesn't have to. The message is already there. And once you realize that, every doll in From becomes less like a toy and more like a page in a diary written by the town itself. But if the dolls really are silent witnesses, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. Who are they watching? At first it seems obvious. The monsters, the victims, the children. But the deeper you look, the stranger the pattern becomes. The dolls rarely draw attention to themselves. Instead, they quietly exist beside moments that permanently change someone's life. That isn't random placement. It's visual storytelling. From has always hidden its biggest answers in the background while the audience focuses on the foreground. Think about how many clues were sitting in plain sight long before they mattered. Victor's drawings, the bottle tree, the strange symbols Jade couldn't stop seeing, the tunnels beneath the town, the boy in white appearing when everything seems lost. None of these clues explain themselves immediately. The show asked us to remember them first and understand them later. So, why wouldn't the dolls follow the exact same rule? Look at Jade. Jade believes every mystery can be solved through logic, patterns, numbers, symbols. He keeps searching for the biggest answer. But here's what changes everything. Maybe Jade has been solving the wrong puzzle. Every time Jade discovers another symbol, another vision, another impossible connection, he assumes the answer lies in decoding ancient signs. But what if the town isn't only speaking through symbols carved into walls? What if it's speaking through placement? Through objects? Through silence? A carved symbol tells you someone was here. A doll tells you someone was being watched. That's a completely different kind of message. One speaks about history. The other speaks about behavior. And that changes how we should read the entire town. Now think about Victor again. Victor doesn't just collect memories. He preserves moments. There's a huge difference. A memory can change over time. A moment cannot. That's why Victor draws pictures. Pictures freeze reality exactly as it happened. Dolls do something similar. They freeze expressions forever. A smile never fades. A stare never changes. A pose never moves. It's almost as if the town prefers frozen moments over living memories.
Why?
Because memories are emotional. Objects are objective. The town doesn't care what people remember. It cares what actually happened. And this is where it gets darker. If the dolls represent frozen moments, then every doll may represent a decision someone can never undo. Notice something else. The town almost never punishes people immediately. Instead, it waits. Someone ignores a warning. Nothing happens. Someone hides the truth. Still nothing. Someone refuses to face their guilt. Again, nothing. Then suddenly, everything collapses. That's how From builds horror. 'Cause first, consequence later. The same timing appears with many unsettling objects. You notice them long before you understand them. That delay isn't accidental. It's conditioning the audience to overlook evidence until it's too late. Exactly what the characters are doing. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the audience is trapped in the same psychological experiment as the people inside the town. We keep dismissing clues, just like they do. Now, let's ask an even more dangerous question. Why are children connected to so many mysteries? Victor's childhood, the boy in white, The mysterious children calling for help. The nursery rhyme connected to terrifying events. Childhood memories are everywhere and from. But dolls belong to childhood too. That connection feels too consistent to ignore. Most people assume dolls represent innocence. I don't think they do. I think they represent control. Children don't create dolls. Adults create dolls for children. Someone designs them, paints them, names them, places them, moves them. The dolls never decide anything. They're controlled from beginning to end. Now, ask yourself something terrifying. Isn't that exactly what the town is doing to everyone inside it? People think they're making choices. Leave the house. Stay outside. Trust someone. Hide something.
Fight. Run. Hope.
But every road circles back to the same prison. Freedom becomes another illusion. Choice becomes another illusion. Just like a doll sitting wherever someone placed it. Maybe the dolls aren't representing children at all. Maybe they're representing the townspeople. That idea completely reframes the monsters. We've always assumed the monsters are hunters. But hunters usually improvise. These creatures don't. They move slowly, patiently. They repeat the same routines. They smile the same way. They speak with strange calmness. Almost like actors repeating assigned lines. What if they're not predators, but caretakers? Not protecting the people. Protecting the system. Making sure nobody escapes the role the town assigned them. If that's true, then the monsters and the dolls serve the same purpose. One watches during the day. The other watches through the night. Different forms. Same function. Observation. Look at Boyd. Boyd keeps trying to break the rules. He refuses to surrender. Every season pushes him harder. Every season demands another impossible decision. And every decision changes him. He's becoming less like the sheriff who entered the town, and more like someone shaped by it. The town isn't just trapping Boyd physically. It's rewriting him psychologically. That's why Boyd's biggest battles aren't against monsters. They're against despair, against guilt, against impossible choices. The town doesn't win when Boyd dies. The town wins when Boyd becomes someone he never wanted to be. That's a much darker victory. And if the dolls are recording transformation rather than death, Boyd may already be surrounded by witnesses documenting every step of his descent. Here's another clue hiding in plain sight. From constantly reminds us that seeing isn't the same as understanding. People see monsters, but they don't know what they are. People see visions, but they don't know who sends them. People hear voices, but they don't know whether to trust them. The dolls fit perfectly into that pattern. Everyone sees them. Almost nobody questions them. That is exactly how the show's greatest clues are designed. Visible enough to notice. Ordinary enough to ignore. And maybe that's been the trick from the beginning. The dolls never needed to move. They only needed us to stop looking. Because the moment we finally start paying attention, they stop looking like forgotten toys and start looking like evidence left behind by something that has been watching every single person who enters the town. But if the dolls have been watching everyone, then there's one final question we have to answer. Who are they reporting to? Because witnesses don't exist without someone collecting the evidence. And this is where the entire mystery of From takes its darkest turn. We've always assumed the town is haunted. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's organized. Think about how every impossible event follows invisible rules. The monsters only come out at night. The talismans work under specific conditions. The trees don't take everyone to the same place. Certain visions appear only to certain people. Even the boy in white chooses who can see him. Nothing is completely random. Random places don't have rules. Systems do. And systems usually have someone running them. So if the dolls are recording choices, someone is reading those records. Look at what the show is actually telling us. Every major character is tested in a different way. Boyd is tested through responsibility. Jade is tested through obsession. Tabitha is tested through hope. Victor is tested through memory. Sarah is tested through faith. None of these tests are the same, yet they all lead to one outcome.
A choice.
Not survival. Not intelligence. A choice. Again and again, the town places people in impossible situations and waits to see what they will do. That doesn't feel like random cruelty. It feels like an experiment. And every experiment needs observation. That's where the dolls fit perfectly. Not as cursed objects, not as haunted toys, but as silent observers placed throughout the town, marking how every person responds under pressure. This also explains something fans have debated for years. Why doesn't the town kill everyone immediately? It easily could. The monsters have had countless opportunities. Instead, they hunt slowly.
They talk. They tempt.
They manipulate, almost as if the outcome matters more than the death itself. That's a strange way to hunt, but it's a perfect way to conduct a test. Because fear reveals character. Pressure exposes truth. When people believe they're out of options, they stop pretending. The real version of themselves finally appears. Maybe that's what the town wants. Not bodies, not blood, the truth. And think about the children. For seasons, we've been asking whether they're trapped, ghosts, or something even stranger. But what if we've misunderstood their role completely? Children notice things adults ignore. They ask questions adults stop asking. They don't automatically dismiss strange objects. A child sees a doll and wonders who left it there. An adult sees a doll and walks away. Maybe that's why the mysterious children keep appearing. Not because they're the key to escaping, but because they're the only ones who ever understood the town's language. Victor survived as a child. Not because he was stronger. Because he kept paying attention. He remembered drawings, objects, tiny details. He never stopped seeing the world the way a child does. Maybe that's why he's survived longer than almost anyone else. But here's the most unsettling possibility of all. What if the dolls aren't only watching the characters? What if they're watching us? That sounds impossible. Until you remember how From tells its story. The writers repeatedly place clues in the background, knowing most viewers won't notice them. Weeks later, months later, sometimes even seasons later, those forgotten details suddenly become important. It's almost like the show itself is testing the audience. Who noticed? Who remembered? Who connected the pieces? In other words, we've been doing exactly what the characters are doing. Ignoring the quiet clues while chasing the loud ones. The dolls become a symbol for every hidden truth we've walked past without stopping. Now, let's connect everything. The dolls never attack. They never speak. They never chase anyone. Because they don't need to. Their purpose is inaction. It's observation. Victor teaches us that objects matter. Jade teaches us that patterns matter. Boyd teaches us that choices matter. The boy in white teaches us that appearances can deceive. The monsters teach us that fear is a weapon. And the dolls connect every one of those ideas. They sit silently while people reveal who they truly are. Every lie, every betrayal, every sacrifice, every moment of courage, every act of selfishness. It's all witnessed, not judged immediately, just recorded. That transforms every rewatch of From. The dolls stop being creepy decorations. They become evidence that the town has been collecting a psychological history of every person who enters it. So, what does this mean for Season 4? If this theory is correct, don't expect the dolls to suddenly come alive. That would actually make them less frightening. Instead, watch where they appear. Watch who notices them. Watch what decision follows. Because the real clue won't be the doll itself. It will be the choice someone makes after it's shown. That's how From hides its biggest answers. Not in jump scares. In patterns. And if the writers continue following that pattern, Season May 4th finally reveal that the town has never been trying to kill its victims. It has been trying to understand them. One impossible choice at a time. One silent witness at a time. One doll at a time. So the next time you see one sitting quietly in the background, don't ask why it's there. Ask something far more terrifying. Who just made a choice the town wanted to remember? Because if the dolls really have been telling the truth all along, then the most important clue in From has never spoken a single word.